Oh, it's still going.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Psych with Dr. DK. Today we have a special episode where my friend Jordan is going to join us and talk about being a teen mom. So I'm just going to ask questions and let her share her story and let us learn from her story, because I think there's a lot of people out there who might be able to relate to what she went through or know someone who will. So Jordan, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us whatever you want to tell us.
Hi, I'm Jordan Bentley. As Denisha said, basically, I was a teen mom. When I was 17 in high school, I got pregnant with my daughter and had her at 18, about 4 days before I graduated. It obviously was, a situation that I was in a relationship that I was in that I chose to make the decisions that I made. But when I became pregnant with her, to be honest, I wasn't really it was scary in a sense, but my mom was very supportive, like right off the bat. She actually kind of got the feeling that I was pregnant before I even knew, and so she had me kind of, take the pregnancy test. And when I took it, she's like, okay, like, you're going to have this baby, what's happened has happened. I'm here to support you now, and everything's going to be okay. And for me now, I know that not a lot of girls or women really have that kind of support, especially from their mother. And so I was really blessed to be able to have that and kind of have a community behind me. Granted, there were family members that were very uneasy about it, for sure. And it was, not great news for them at the time. But after time kind of went on, it was something that, a baby came into the world, a new human being, and that was a blessing to them, as they realized later. But no, I going through the pregnancy in high school was definitely not something that I thought was going to happen with my life. I remember that show, what is it called, like the show with the teenager that was pregnant. It was like Shailene Woodley.
American Teenage American Girl or something like that.
Like, yeah,
something
American
like that.
pregnant, I don't know, something like that. And she became pregnant, and like I was never allowed to watch that show because my mom was obviously not condoning, that sort of stuff. And so, but anyway, that's kind of how it felt when I figured out. I was like, my life is a movie. Like, what is happening right now? Like I totally felt like I was so out of what my life was and just in a movie or in a show. But obviously kind of caught up with reality later on. And I honestly had a pretty good experience in high school being pregnant. I was very supported by my friends and even just people I didn't know in high school. And like I said before about, having a supportive family, like having people support you is usually not very common when it comes to pregnancies like this, especially in high school, because people just so look down on it. And obviously it's not the greatest situation, but kind of belittling people or putting them down or not supporting them isn't helpful whatsoever. And so having that really helped me a lot. And, the dad of my daughter, we were together at the time, and he was very helpful at the time and supportive in that. And our friend group was, and going through that was just very interesting through high school. Obviously I'm growing as the baby grows, and it was a lot of growing up. I had to do a lot of growing up in a short amount of time. Yeah. And by the time I had her, it was like, okay, I have to take care of this little human being, like she's mine, and I need to support her and take care of her. And it made me grow up even more, and I had to kind of like, take off into adulthood, find a job, be able to take care of this human being and support her, and really find out, okay, what do I want to do with my life? Because I can't just like slowly figure it out. I need to really jump on it so that I can provide for her in the best way I possibly can. I mean, that's kind of like the summation a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, I Googled it because I wanted to know what the show was. It's The Secret Life of American Teenager. I'm like, oh yeah, that. I remember that show and feeling that way. Like you watch it and you're like, man, that's hard. And I had a friend in high school who was pregnant and she did not get support. So definitely, like you said, it is one of those things it's not normal for people to just provide that emotional support or physical support. And I think I don't know why I didn't realize you were 17. And so I was kind of like, like you might have seen my like, wow, like you were 17, you were a baby as well. And you said that it made you grow up faster. So what are some of the things that maybe compared to your friends at the time, like how did you notice those differences to be mentally shifting over to mom life versus just high school graduating student mindset?
Oh man, yeah, there was a lot of things. So I remember my junior year before that, we were planning for senior year. Like I was like, I'm not going to go to prom this year. I'll go next year as a senior. Or, oh, we need to start figuring out if we're able to do the senior activities and everything. But to be honest, I wasn't really like super involved with my stuff in high school. It was kind of like, I want to hang out with my friends, get my studies done, that's it. And like go to the games, whatever. But obviously after I became pregnant with her, everything kind of shifted, like you said. But I just remember kind of realizing some of the decisions I made in the previous years, like I couldn't, like in regard to like who I'd hang around, because a lot of them, did, I'm just gonna say it, they smoked and whatever it was. And so it's like I can't hang around you because that's not only going to affect me, but it's going to affect my baby. And a lot of the events that we went to, people would get rowdy or it'd be loud or almost like a party situation. It's like I'm not gonna do that. And other things such as people planning for prom. Well, by the time prom came around, I was so massive at that point. I was about probably 9 months pregnant at that point, like pretty close to my due date, and was just too big. And I was like, no, I'm going to be exhausted. Standing up dancing with a bunch of teenagers does not sound fun to me being pregnant. And so I didn't go to prom, but to be honest, at the time I wasn't bummed out because I felt like as I had to make these decisions and kind of like grow up more than everybody else, I was just like, I don't want to dance with teenagers anyway. Like I'd just rather hang out with my family and, watch a movie with them. And so those decisions, they were kind of hard, but not really. But now looking back, I don't really regret them either. But you do miss out on like the normal stuff of being in high school. But some of it's a blur too, because it had to go by so fast. I mean, she's 7 now, so I'm like, oh my gosh, that was like 7 years ago. It's not a super long time, but it's long enough to where I'm like, what did I do? What did I do? So
yeah. How did you navigate your senior year pregnant? Because morning sickness sucks. It just like you're just like there's no energy at all. So how did you what did you do? Because I know that there are going to be some people who are in high school who are pregnant that might listen to this, and I hope that they will. So it's like, what are some things that you did to take care of yourself? How did you take care of your grades and keep those stable and all that stuff?
Okay, so mornings for me, they weren't terribly rough. I didn't get a lot of I got morning sickness-ish the first 3 months, but then after that I didn't really have any, but I was exhausted all the time. I was tired. And even though taking like the prenatals and stuff really helped with my energy and just kind of moving along. Like, I mean, you're still exhausted. You're taking care of this human being growing in your body, as you know. So kind of, I would just, I mean, my mom was supporting me, the dad was supporting me at the time. And I think kind of motivating myself to go throughout the day too was just like, okay, I need to get this done. Like I didn't want to be a statistic. My mom, you know, motivated me in that way too. If she's like, no, you are not going to be a statistic because I know you. And, you know, this is becoming a statistic is not your route in life, you know? And I believe that about myself too. And so kind of motivating myself and acting as much as like as things were normal as possible, even though it wasn't normal. It was still like, I still have to go to school. I'm not going to drop out. Like, I can do this. It's fine. Women work while they're pregnant. I can do that. And so motivating myself was like a huge thing. My faith played a huge role in it as well, because I had fallen away from the Lord. Out. Yes, go out. Go.
That's Maddie, if you don't know. Hello, Maddie.
Did you want to say hi?
Hi, Maddie.
Hi, Denisha.
We're talking about you. She's like, bye. Bye, everybody. I'm good.
So it's so funny because I told her too, I'm like, you cannot come in. And she goes, okay. I'm like, what did I say? Oh, I can't come in. I'm like, okay, so you know. And then she goes, can I have sweets?
She's like, I have a question.
Yeah,
I get it.
Exactly.
So you say you had a faith community that you tapped into, which was, I think, a part of your faith, is what you're saying?
Yes, yeah. My faith was like a huge part of it. I fell off for a while and obviously got into a lifestyle that wasn't reflecting what I believed or what I claimed to be walking in. And so kind of rekindling that relationship, I guess, or reconnecting with God and trying to dive back into the church. Because the funny thing is, well, it's funny now, I helped start a Bible club at the high school this summer before my senior year, and, you know, was helping lead it and really kind of diving into spreading, you know, God's word through the high school through that club. And then 2 months later found out that I was pregnant, and I was like, well, isn't this ironic? But God, you know, still used it, and I strengthened my relationship after that, because I knew obviously there's some things that in my heart are not right because I made the decisions that I made, and God gave me enough grace to bless me with this beautiful, you know, baby girl that I was expecting. And so I, you know, dove back into my faith, reading the word daily and just trying to trust God, and that, okay, well, if this is the route that you have for me, then obviously it's something really cool for me to be able to help people in the same situation, you know, later on. But for right now, this is what I'm going through. And so that helped a lot. And then staying on top of the grades and schoolwork was rough. I mean, it was senior year, so it wasn't too rough. Because at that point, you're kind of just like, okay, we're exiting now. But I stayed on top of my stuff. It was actually my best year of grades. Like, I had pretty much straight A's except for one class, and I think it was like social studies, but I was fine with that. B was like the best grade ever for social studies. So
social studies is just a lot.
It's rough. It's rough. But I had pretty much straight A's. And I remember even because I had 6 classes, 3 of my classes, well, one of them was like an elective, but 3 of the teachers in the classes basically said, you don't need to take a final. Like, because I got towards the end of the year and end of my pregnancy, and they were just like, and I think they were all, 2 of them were women and one of them was a man, but he had, you know, a wife that was actually pregnant at the time too. And yeah, and they were like, you're fine. Like, you don't need to take the final, which was like so nice of them. They didn't have to do that. But I feel like they saw like, hey, she's trying, she's doing really well. You know, she's showing up, and that's what I believe they saw. And I had good relationships with them too. And I was honest with them about the situation.
Yeah.
I think that helped a lot too, is just me being honest and saying, I'm still going to show up. I'm still here. Even though pregnancy in any situation is rough, I do believe that I was extremely blessed to be able to have the support that I did.
Yeah.
And now seeing how that has been, that's why now I'm so passionate about it, because it's like there are girls who have nothing like that, like the complete opposite, and it's just awful. And so I want to be able to encourage them and help them and support them too. But yeah, that's kind of what day-to-day looks like.
So some of the things so I wanted to look it up because I like providing statistics, and according to ncsl.org, they said only 40% of teen moms actually finish high school. And then 2% finish college by the age of 30. So you were talking about not being that statistic, and really the CAF.com says that the reason that a lot of people don't finish is that there's a lack of conditions with being given support, not being able to really know how to approach the problem, not just the teenager themselves, but family, friends, staff at the school. And so it interrupts their high school experience. What were some of the things that the teachers did and maybe the administration did to help, outside of just being like, hey, you don't need to take the final? But what were some of the things that maybe they helped with just giving you that support too?
So I really like that you mentioned all of that, because the high school that I went to, it was Esperanza High School in Anaheim. And years ago, like way long ago, they actually had two different campuses. There was main campus for everybody, and then the other campus was actually for the pregnant teenage moms, because there were so many at the time. They had a whole other campus and wanted to make sure they were getting the education and support that they needed. Well, obviously after time, that rate of pregnancy went down, and they just turned into like West Campus, where there was all of these extracurricular classes, including one of them. It was called SERVE, and it was an acronym for something that I cannot remember, but it basically supported people in different situations, like people who were in, foster care but going to the high school, people who were being fostered, people who were pregnant teenagers, or just recovering alcoholics as a teenager. And it's just like all these different kids were in this class being supported. And so they provided classes like that, and they were well educated on teen moms because they previously had a whole campus for them. And so they were able to kind of help me in that. And then my counselor spoke to me on a weekly basis to kind of follow up with me and see how I was doing, and making sure that everything was okay, and that I was on track, and that if I needed any more support, that she had resources. But in regard to the teachers, it was, hey, if you need help, please reach out. Like, just always encouraging and checking up on me and making sure everything is okay. If I needed to talk to them, they're like, absolutely, and set up a time with me. If I wasn't feeling great, then they would have other students in the class either send me stuff or help me out with something. So there was a lot of support, I will say that.
I love that. Now, here, from a standpoint of the church, pregnancy outside of marriage is usually looked down upon. I know a lot of people who have gotten pregnant and were asked to leave the church. Just at different churches, never the same, sometimes in different religions as well. What ways did the church support you, or a church group support you, that you recognized was maybe different for somebody else?
Oh man, so different for somebody else. I actually have known women who, even outside of high school, have gotten pregnant, married that man later on, but got pregnant and showed up at church and felt extremely judged. And it just breaks my heart, because that's not how it should be. And I feel like that's usually what happens to a lot of not only teen moms, but single moms and, women like that. We should be reaching out and supporting them. It's what's done is done. They need, help with the hard issue that they have, or we have. But when it came to church, the church that I was a part of at the time, um, because I was helping with the Bible club through that church for the high school. Not surprisingly, because I believe I knew these people's hearts because I was close to them. So I knew I could be honest with them and share with them what happened, and that they would support me as I go. And that's 100% what has happened to this day. Two of the main people, they're not linked to that church, but they're missionaries. Their last name is the Davidoffs, but they prayed over me and basically talked me through it, and encouraged me, by the word, and just letting me know that they're family and that they were always going to be there and helping me through that. But the pastor of the church at the time kind of laid it out simply and said, well, this happened. It is what it is right now. And, we're here. We love you. We support you. And we're going to make sure that you have the care that you need, and that, everything turns out great with, baby girl. And they did continue to let me lead the Bible club, which now I'm not sure that was the right move. I don't know if I would have allowed somebody in my situation to continue to lead it, but it was an example of still how much grace God showed me through that situation of, you're still going to lead, even though you feel like, you're insufficient, or just you're not the right person for this. And I feel like that's a reflection on pretty much my whole later in life. But there was, I'm telling you, a lot of support from them.
And you said that you weren't sure that if you were in that situation with someone else, that would have been your outcome or your decision to continue to have them lead. What would that be? Would it come down to the heart issue? Would it come down, how would you determine if someone in that kind of a situation would still lead or not lead in a church setting?
Yeah. So for me, I think for anybody else, I think it's different per situation. Whereas if it were me kind of years later down the road, it would have been like, yeah, she has a real bad heart issue. And, but, I'm still passionate about Jesus. We all have our sins and everything. I'm not encouraging anything whatsoever. But at that time, I had a heart for Jesus, but I had honestly not too much business leading anything. One, because I was still a teenager trying to figure out stuff, and then this had happened, and it was just a lot of pressure on top of being a teenage mom, and then just other life circumstances that were going on. Obviously still I was leading for a reason, but I think it's different for every situation, and I wouldn't encourage every situation to be that way. But I still think there needs to be some sort of grace or mercy given in all of the situations.
And you were kind of comparing it to where it wasn't really other people, but more of if you were looking at your situation, you would have said hey, maybe a break. Let's sit down and actually deal with what's going on emotionally, mentally, and then. Okay, so that makes sense. So you navigated high school, and then you said that after high school you went into working and things like that. And I know you graduated college, but what did that period of time look like? Because she was 1 to 7 at that point. So what did it look like after high school?
Oh, wow. My gosh. It's so much. So when I graduated, it was great and everything. And then 3 months later, decided to move to Tennessee, just to live with my dad, because he doesn't live in California where I live, and wanted to see the kind of what that would be like. And so we moved over there, and I looked for a job immediately and kind of navigated getting health insurance for her set up, and appointments for her, and make sure she had the right pediatrician. And I had not even scheduled my own appointments for the doctor at that point. So starting for her first was oh, okay. I don't even really know how to do this, but I learned as I went.
Yeah.
And my mom did not come with me to Tennessee. So I genuinely was doing it by myself. I'd text her every once in a while, like, hey, how do you do this? But learning how to do that was pretty crazy, especially because I hadn't done it for myself. And then finding a job was crazy too, because I was only 18 and I went to Goodwill to get like heels and a skirt and a jacket and a button up for like $10, and was like, I need this for the interview, and wore to an interview for a company, and got a job there, and started doing events for just working events. And then that didn't work out really great, wasn't making a lot, and the hours were weird. So I went over and interviewed for Journeys, the shoe company. Their call center is based in Nashville. So I went and applied for that, got trained for 2 weeks, and then worked it 1 week. But in the midst of this whole situation, the living situation with my dad and my daughter's dad, as well as my sister who came along too, the situation was just really bad. And so my sister actually ended up leaving before me. And then I ended up leaving with my daughter and her dad, and we split up after that. So we came back to California, split up, and have been split up since. But coming back to California, I knew, one, I was suffering because I didn't have community. I was also suffering because, again, I had gotten off track in my faith. And three, like, I needed help taking care of this child. I couldn't do it by myself. And so after coming back from that, having a couple relationships that left me heartbroken, it drove me back to having my relationship with God and getting back into serving in ministry. And that's when I found my community and have them to this day. And as you know, because you are a part of it, but since then, it's just been getting the support from my whole community, and the encouragement and the love, as well as support from my family. And going to college was another step of, hey, I want to support my child. I want to support myself. Not only do I want to do what I love, but I want to, it wasn't really to show myself that I could do it. It was, I'm going to do this. It's going to happen because I say so, like, this is what's going to happen. And so I did that, and man, was that rough. It was a lot. And doing classes online, I mean, with Grand Canyon, what I did it through made it really easy with life, because you could do it whenever, pretty much. And that made it well worth it, as I was in school full-time as well as working full-time, and then living life and raising my daughter as well. It was a lot to navigate, and it is very hard. It's really rough, but it's worth it. Like, you shouldn't be skated by in life just being comfortable. You should be working towards being a better self and learning more and wanting to do what you love, rather than just kind of sit on your bum and, hey, I can't afford this, or I'm a single mom, or my child's just too young, I can't afford anything else but giving what I can to her, which I did. But there are definitely a lot of resources and support from different colleges and groups and scholarships that you can get to be able to help you achieve what you want to. So, I mean, with that, after all of these years, it's, like I said, it's just been a lot of support and love for my community, a lot of motivation, having faith in God that, okay, I'm going where you want me to go. I'm going to continue on that. And you've got to push me and help me, because it's rough. And
So with like your hours, what did a day look like? Because you were full-time working, full-time school, full-time mom, and those three things don't clash together well. So what did the days look like? Because I think a lot of people can really relate to that.
Honestly, each day looked massively different. There are some days that looked the same, but I took it day by day, because Not only was, my mom encouraging me to do that, but everyone around me was like, you can only do what you are able to do, and everything else, just take it day by day. And so that's what I did. And yeah, just taking it day by day, and then understanding that some things weren't going to get done that day and they had to be done the next day. There were several times where I reached out not only to my employer, but as well, but also like my professors, and asked, hey, can I have an extension on this? Or, hey, like I've got a lot going on. Like, can you, maybe bump it back a day or something like that. And there were some times it didn't happen often, but just, things like that.
Yeah, and you still asked even if you got no, when sometimes you get a yes, which helps.
Yeah.
I know people look at us, our situations, or might look into the window of our lives and be like, everything's so calm and you're killing it. But mentally and emotionally, we don't feel like we are. So, and I know when I look at you, I'm like, oh yeah, Jordan's got it. Like Jordan's can do so many things at once. Like I look at you and see that. What do you feel internally though? Because I know that that's so different internally when you're going through all of that.
Oh man, I'm a very emotional person, so I cry all the time. But no, I'm going to say it a million times, having community has been awesome, because I can talk to them, I can reach out to them, I can cry with them, I can laugh with them, I can ask for advice, but also therapy. Therapy has been very helpful. I did it a couple of years ago for a whole year, and that really got me through some rough stuff, and really learned during that time of therapy, like, hey, you need to give yourself more grace. When I thought I was going to come out of it with her telling me this is how you need to fix yourself and everything, but it was, no, you need to give yourself more grace. And I was like, oh, okay. But that, and I've even been in therapy recently because, even with years going by, and I think more things that you know and understand, and the more wisdom and knowledge you have, there's still going to be rough times that you need help through. And even just yesterday, I had kind of a mental breakdown because I was like, there's so many things going on. Even though they're all great things, like it still can be rough when it's a lot, But yes, therapy, community, prayer, a lot of prayer. And yeah, just understanding that like it's okay to be upset and cry sometimes, honestly, or to like it's gonna be normal to have anxiety during certain situations as well. And that's something that I had to work through, as well as depression, anxiety, because after you have kids, or you go through situations or trauma, like those are inevitable. Anxiety and depression are pretty much inevitable at that point. So it's understanding, hey, take care of yourself, don't be so hard on yourself. My puppy, sorry.
That's the dog. That's the other child.
Yeah.
But so, yeah. One of the things you talked about is just like navigating all of that together, giving yourself grace. I feel like parenting is just really hard. And you do have those days where you just break down and you're like, I'm done. What would be kind of like, how do you escape from that anxiety? Not escape, maybe that's the wrong word, but how do you deal with the anxiety when it's good events? Because I know when we're used to things kind of just being crazy all the time, when the good stuff starts happening, we still panic. So what are some things that like you would encourage other people to seek? Counseling is one of them, prayer is one of them. What are some other things that you have found helpful for you that kind of reduces that anxiety when it comes to good things happening?
Yeah. Like I said, support and just a lot of the community help. But two of the major things for me have been, well, one, the first and foremost for me has been prayer, or just kind of breathing and making sure that, like, hey, everything's okay. Talking to God about it, because he's in control of all of it. Another thing that has helped as well is antidepressants. Like antidepressants have helped a massive amount. And for the longest time, I, not refused it, but was like, I don't need it. Like, I just really don't. And, I believe for a period of time I didn't, but then it got to a point where like, no, you need it now. There's some, because the thing is there's going to be imbalances in some people, and they can't really help that. And, supplements can help imbalances, but it depends also. If it's an extreme imbalance, I've learned from my psychiatrist is like, you can do all you want naturally to control that, but sometimes through different medications, that's where you're going to find the most relief. And ultimately you're not going to find 100% relief all the time. You still have to be able to work through it yourself. But I have found with the medication that I have been taking, it's allowed me to live normally and become closer to God and closer to people that I love and know, and actually be able to step outside, because it was so bad to one point where I wouldn't leave my room. And it was like, I'm 24 years old. I have a job and I need to take care of my daughter. I have responsibilities I need to take care of. And so I wouldn't say they depend solely on antidepressants, but they are extremely helpful, for some, or with anxiety, it's medications that can relieve anxiety or panic attacks as well. So
all pairing it together versus just like you said earlier, sometimes you can do all the things, but you have to pair that medication in to be able to help your body get that relief. And the weird thing is, it's with our bodies, sometimes our fight or flight is on for too long. And so because of that, when good things happen, we get the same reaction that we would if it was a bad situation, like a car accident or something. Someone being like, I brought you this food, and all of a sudden you're like, why am I panicking? This is a good thing. Like it's sometimes it's that small. And I remember some of those moments and asking a counselor about it, and she said the same thing, where she's just like, sometimes your body is on high too long, and the medication can come in and kind of monitor that for you, bring that down so your body gets used to what it's like being in a normal state of mind again. And so the next, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, you and I have talked about that. Because there, were times where it's like, I have to really kind of see the difference between me being excited and then just being, nervous or anxious, or just nervous and excited. And that's kind of something I've had to go kind of read between the lines. And when you said that, it was like something like clicked in my mind. I'm like, oh, I should probably make sure, that's why I'm just like all, antsy and stuff. Is I'm either nervous or excited. It's not always anxiety. And like you said, like we've had to live lives in survival mode for so long that it's always on high alert and anxiety. So,
and it's crazy because, so for those who were not in the conversation when we were talking about it, I was doing something and I was like really excited to go to Disneyland. And I started panicking and like, I was like, Jordan, like I'm realizing my body doesn't know the difference between the two. And like, I go to the movies and start freaking out, or like I would get my favorite ice cream and start panicking. And I'm like, what is happening? And you just realize sometimes that because your body's on high too long, it does conflate good emotions and bad emotions, and it can't tell the difference between the two. So I would go to Disneyland and I'd get on a ride and I would panic, and it would be like the Little Mermaid, like not even a roller coaster, like a ride that barely moves, like it. And it made me feel so ashamed. And so when, I think that that's one of the things is with mental health is we all feel shame or guilt, or like we're weak because we're not seeking that help and not being able to do it on our own. But it's not, and it's something where I think community can speak into that and be like, look, like we've gone through that, we've dealt with it. And I think that's such a powerful thing to be able to recognize and be like, you know what, today it's time to get on medicine, or it's time to start seeing a counselor again, or let me try changing my food and see if that helps, or realizing like, hey, I need to tell myself I'm not anxious, I'm excited, and my body doesn't know how to tell the difference. So I have to reprogram my mind to do that. So with community and relationships, how did you see those things change because you go from just kind of living to kind of like, okay, now I have a daughter again. So like how did those relationships and friendships change because of being a young mom and also being a mom through your early 20s?
Oh, you mean like the relationships I already had when I had Maddie?
And that came in after having her. How did your mindset change for that?
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting because the relationships that I had while I was pregnant with Maddie, they seemed so solid. And then once I had later on in the pregnancy, and then even after, a lot of those friends kind of like were gone, took off, you know. And honestly, I was not surprised because they were very much about the high school vibe and trying to fit in and everything, and I was not about fitting in. It was just I'm here to do what I need to do and be who I am. That's it. And so it was definitely a weeding out of, hey, these are the friendships that, you know, they're not going to survive in the next season. And luckily I've had, you know, a few friends that have been through all the seasons after that with me to this day. And that's kind of really cool to see, not only myself grow through the years, but also see how they grow and then how we grow together as friends, see that relationship change. Because I not only matured in my own life, but they matured in their life, and we got to mature together. So that's been awesome, because then, you know, like we're connected. I don't even know how to explain it. Like we're not connected just by, you know, things in front of us or by the world around us. It's like, no, we genuinely love each other. We genuinely care about each other and want to see each other succeed in life and be a part of it. But after having Maddie and then gaining the community that I have now, oh my gosh, there was a while where I wasn't embarrassed of being a single mom, but it definitely was like, I'm a single mom at church, you know, and introducing myself and my daughter to everybody. It was just weird at first, because people were very accepting, but it was like, are you gonna like run at some point though, you know, like, are you not gonna want to stick around? Because there were churches before that I went to when I was younger, and it was very it was not genuine. It was fake. It was, you know, it wasn't great. And, you know, there's always bad apples, but this time was different. You know, these people genuinely love me and support me and care about me and wanted to see me not only succeed, but be a part of it and walk alongside with it. And I can say, to this day, they have made me a better person, a better mom, a better friend, a better everything. And a good community, like, it'll change your life. Absolutely. Like, turn it around completely. So
I know a friend of mine, she was a single mom for a long time. Like, I think her child for his entire life. And she just said that the hard part with church sometimes is that they speak to the family unit more than the single mom. And so there is a hard time finding like single mom groups, Bible studies and things like that, or finding Bible studies with childcare. But what are some of the things that churches can do to help single moms or single parents through all of life, not just here or there?
Yeah, honestly, I think first and foremost, just being aware that there are single parents, like just being more aware about that. Not only single parents, but like there are teenagers that are getting into the same situation and they're becoming parents as well. And I just think that it's not that the church needs to, like, I don't know how to put this. Be more aware and understand that they need to help everybody walking in that door. They need to love every person walking in that door. And a lot of the people that they talk to and interact with, you know, each weekend or each week are people that are struggling with sins that are on the inside, you know. And whereas these people, it's like, it's right in front of you, she's pregnant, you know, or their kid is standing right there, like it's right in front of them. And that can be a little hard to deal with sometimes, because it might be more of a rough situation. But I think that they need to have more resources, allow really pay attention to, hey, okay, can we start having a group where, you know, they can study on this day, or maybe we need to have some sort of gathering where, you know, everyone can talk to one another, hang out, have fun, play games, sort of, I don't know, just form community so that they can feel more supported and loved, but also provide a space where they can, you know, have a Bible study together so they can understand, hey, this happened, but we want you to become, you know, a better follower of Christ, just like the rest of us. So
like that a lot, because it's hard being a single parent in the church, and I was the single parent of my siblings, and it's awkward because they're my siblings, but I feel like it's so different for someone who it's their child, because like you said, people look at you and they're like, I can see that you did something you weren't supposed to do. And you know, other people, they can hide their sins, but also too, like that child still needs to be loved, and you as an individual need to be loved because you're a child of God. And so sometimes we can overlook it and just be like, oh well, we don't want to start a mom's group or a single parent group because we don't want to promote single parents, or people tend to overthink it. Then some churches they're so oblivious to that there are single parents or teenage single parents in their church. So I like that you said, like, making sure that they're aware of it and just implementing something to help them and give resources so that way we can help the heart and be there to love and show Jesus. So how have within the church community, what were some special ways that people showed up for you and for Maddie over the last 7 years from the church?
I mean, yeah, there was a lot. One of the biggest ways was just inviting me into their homes and forming a relationship with me, and, you know, helping me to understand, like, hey, this isn't just a charity case. Like, we genuinely love having you, you know, and forming bonds that pretty much have made it to where we're all family, you know. And so that's a huge way, is just inviting in the homes, you know, having meals together, going and spending days together, even going on trips, which is really cool. Another part of it was always inviting me to things, making sure, hey, are you coming to the worship night? Are you going to be at church on Sunday? I want to sit with you, you know, or just, hey, you know, we think that you should totally volunteer part of this ministry, not because we need more volunteers, but because we genuinely think, like, hey, you could help in this. Like, it could help, you know. And we always joked about the high school group because they were trying to get more volunteers. But, you know, one of the guys genuinely believed, like, hey, I think that your life in high school could definitely help, you know, these girls out, and you could help to lead them. And it was not only, you know, good for them, but it was good for me too, because it taught me a lot of stuff and encouraged me. Another way was allowing me to serve in ministry, because that has been extremely fulfilling. Because I've been serving on the worship team for several years now, and I count myself very not lucky, but blessed to be a part of it, because to be honest, when I was younger, I did not see a lot of single parents or, you know, younger adults or anything kind of like that serving. And it was just like, are they being like outcasts, you know? So the fact that not only allowing me to be able to serve and do what I love, but I saw people in, you know, similar situations do it as well. And it's like, this is so cool to see, you know, like that you genuinely love us and want us to be able to help and serve.
I love that. So now, how did your romantic relationships change? Because that's a whole different ballgame, I feel like, when it comes to dating as a single parent. Like friendships, you're just kind of like, well, they're friends. But like, with romantic relationships, that's a whole different ballgame for a single parent. So what are some things that changed? And then what is some advice that you can give to single parents about dating?
Oh, man. Well, before I went back to church, there were several years where I wasn't making great decisions and getting into relationships that I shouldn't have been. and still kind of making decisions that I shouldn't have. And, you know, there was a lot of heartbreak that came from that, like some severe heartbreak that lasted years after. And I would just encourage from those. I mean, I could go into a whole topic about that, but just briefly, you know, make smart decisions. Like, do not don't get yourself into relationships that you know you shouldn't. Focus on, you know, taking care of yourself and bettering yourself and going after what you love, and being there for your loved ones first. And whoever, you know, whoever is right for you is going to come along at the right time. And pushing for it or trying to find it yourself is not going to get you anywhere. And giving yourself fully to somebody too is not, you know, it's not, you're not going to find love in that or intimacy. You're just going to find, you know, what would you say for the word for that?
I
Just
say
find
placeholder.
yeah,
The placeholder.
yeah, yeah, 100%. Like, you're just, yeah. But the years after that, I actually for 4 years was not in any serious relationship, and I pretty much didn't date that entire time. You know, I had brief times of dating within that for a couple of weeks or even like a month or so, but I did not enter into any serious relationships during those 4 years. And when I was dating, it was not casual. It was like, hey, is this somebody that could potentially, you know, be something? And then it didn't, and it was over. It was never anything casual during those 4 years. It was very like, I'm serious about school because I was in school at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm serious about my daughter. I'm serious about ministry. Whoever's going to come alongside me is going to come when, you know, whenever it happens. Mm-hmm. And so it really helped me to be able to understand, like, one, I need somebody who's going to love and support me and care for me, but also for my daughter. Like, it's not just about me, it's about my daughter as well. And I think that was the mistake I ever made early on, because it was just about me. And it was like, oh yeah, they can love my daughter too, you know? Not trying to cast my daughter aside, but she was like 1 or 2. And the guys I had dated were very young. And so it was just like, oh yeah, you know, this is fine. But no, later on, understanding like she is just as important in this, you know, as the two of us. And playing that into there. So yeah. And then I didn't date I didn't really like I wasn't in a relationship or date during that time pretty much. And then by the time I was finished with school and ready to step in the next part of life, I met my current fiance, soon to be husband. And I can say without a doubt that this is who God has for me. And he came at the perfect time, because I've had all these years not only to grow up and be a better mother to my daughter and finish school, but I've also matured enough to be able to understand, like, I am not, you know, I'm a woman now. I'm a woman of God. I want somebody who's going to love me and cherish me and run this race with me in life, and take it seriously as much as I do. And so that's how much it changed a lot.
I thought it was really funny because your mom had said, like, 2 years ago, I remember you were talking to your mom about relationships and stuff like that. And she said, I just like crack up. She's so right. She's like, I feel like it's going to happen after you finish college. Like, your degree is going to get done. And I just remember being like, okay, mom, like, that's such a mom answer. But yeah, I'm not even joking. Like, Jordan, you finished school and like, what year? Last year in October, and then you met Garrett in December or November or something like that. So it was like, wait a minute.
It was crazy.
Spot on.
My mom, like, I'm telling you, she knows things way before I do. And it's just like such a gift that she has. But she told me right after I was done with school, somebody had mentioned about going and doing online dating, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, it'll happen when it happens with whoever. And I'm with not searching. And my mom was like, that's what's going to happen next. That's what's next for you. I already know it. And a month later, I met Garrett, and I was like, what?
It was just so funny because I like, again, it's always like that, like, oh mom, you're just saying that.
Yeah.
Your mom's always right. So it was just kind of like, okay, I believe her, but at the same time too, like, don't get your hopes up, because we were both talking about that. Like, don't
Yeah.
get sad if it's not right away, because it is hard to do life by yourself. And you also get really comfortable doing your life by yourself as a single parent, that it's hard to bring someone else in. So if you're comfortable, share a little bit about how has that transition been for bringing Garrett into a party of 2 to come into a party of 3? Because that's different.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It's been very different. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that comes with it, introducing somebody, especially when your child is so young. And, you know, I've kind of seen how that's affected her a lot. And she's always wanted a full family, you know, and she's always wanted, you know, to have it. She's always wanted siblings and all that stuff. And I said, well, that's going to happen, you know, when I get married. And so she's been very excited about it. I think there is definitely, though, you know, the tug of war of emotions when it comes to seeing this, you know, new man in our life as, hey, this is my stepdad. This is somebody who's going to love me, you know, as a dad should, along with, you know, having her dad in her life as well. And so there's always a tug of war of that. And just introducing him was good. She took it very well. I mean, she's a very loving person. You know, she's a little sassy, so there are definitely times where she pushes the limits, but she's getting older and she pushes the limits with me too. So, but it's been very interesting, and it's something that you definitely have to do carefully, and most of the time slowly. But we had spent a lot of time together in the first few months that we even worked together, because just of health issues with my stepdad. So Garrett was around a lot to not only help me, but support us and take care of me and my daughter and my family. And so we very quickly saw the kind of man that he is, and how much he how much he loves us. And now, you know, we're getting married because he has decided, you know, a while ago that he wanted to devote his life to, you know, loving us and protecting us. And I think with Maddie, seeing that, it's just been very reassuring for her too. Like, knowing that another person is going to be in her life that's going to love her and serve her, but also somebody that can help mommy and be alongside mommy and support mommy too. But it also is a little difficult too, because, you know, she has to share mommy, and sharing mommy is not something she likes to do. So she has her moment. Yeah.
But there's also the parenting stuff that's different too. And now there's 2 parents versus what used to be 1, but then there's also grandparents. And so it can become complicated, and it's just that I feel like always is changing with age. And so she is at that age normally where every 7-year-old is like, I don't want to listen to the rules. Let me see who I can win this one with. And so it's like being able to recognize that is easy and hard at the same time, because you know, but you're also like, why are you being difficult? Chill out.
Yeah.
So one of the things you said that I think was really good also is that you brought him around pretty fast. Not fast, but like he was around a lot in the beginning because of what was going on with your stepdad. But I feel like that's a benefit for all parents, like all single parents, because you are distracted with your child. You are also then distracted by the relationship you're in. And normally, just without kids, you can blind yourself to who somebody is. And typically we wait a long time to bring them around family and friends, because we're just like, we don't want people to say anything yet. But he kind of jumped in and helped. And that I think more people need to do in general is to not hide the relationship, but just be like, what do my friends and my family think? Because they will see something that I don't. And I think that's like a big thing for me is when I look at past relationships, I'm like, man, if I brought them around my friends faster, I would have listened to them versus being blinded by what was happening or what they said. You know, there were ways people would speak to me that were not great. And people were like, I don't like how he speaks to you. And I was like, well, this is how he always speaks to me. But if they had said that in the beginning, I would have listened to it a lot more and been like, yeah, no, you're right. He does speak to me in a really bad way. So it's good. I think it's good when you get people around you and your community around you and be like, yes or no. They'll see things that you can't see. And I think that that's super important. And they're more comfortable, I feel like, saying things in the beginning versus like 6 months in. They'll be like, well, it is what it is. It's like, no, if it's bad, it's bad.
Well, and one of the first nights we went out, like on our dates, you know, I was not playing. I'm like, hey, I'm laying it all out right here, right now. This is what I want. And this is what I expect. And I'm telling you right now. So, you know, what do you say? And so we had that conversation one of the very first nights because I wanted him to know where I was at and that I was serious. And luckily, you know, he was too. And now we're, you know, where we're at today. But I think that was an important thing as well, is, hey, like, this isn't casual. Like, if it's going to be you and me, it's going to be you and me. You're going to stick with me, you know, and we're going to learn to know each other and love each other. And so.
Was that the first time you ever kind of just laid the ground rules out that quickly, or was that something that you had done before?
No, that was my first time. And I wish I would have done that before, because it would have saved a lot of stuff, because the reaction would have probably been like, oh my gosh, you know, like, they wouldn't have been able to lie so easily to my face. They would have been like, no, you know, they would have straight up said no. But again, like I said, things happen for a reason, and Garrett came at the right time. So
absolutely, I agree with that. And it's funny because I basically did the same thing to my husband, to Mark, and was like, so here's where I'm at, here's what's going on, this is what I'm looking for. Like, first night meeting him, because you get tired of being played with, and you get tired of, like, when you have kids, you don't have time to be hurt. And that's really where I feel like it's funny, because you're just like, man, I wish I could be that blunt. And I'm like, you can, and it does take time, because that was not who I was before. Because I was like, oh, I just want to have fun. And then being like, wow, why did that hurt so bad? Like, why is my heart broken? Oh, because I went in there playing games, and then this time around I'm done with that lifestyle, and I'm just going to be honest, I'm not going to waste my time. But I love that. I love that. I feel like every person who does that, they're just like, it was the right thing to do. And I'm like, yeah, it is.
100%. But people think like you're so headstrong at that point, or they're just like, I don't know, they have like such bad feelings about them. Like, I couldn't care less. You go in strong.
You get to a point of being done, being hurt. And it's like, I'm not going to waste my time on someone who's not serious. Like, I'm not here to play around. I'm not here to sleep around. I'm not here to play with my emotions. Like, and I'd rather not be in a relationship if the person that says they're interested in me isn't really interested in everything about me. And this is a part of it, my bluntness. All right. Is there anything else you want to add? Any encouragement to single parents out there, or anything?
I mean, we've pretty much gone through it all, but I would say, you know, whether it's teen mom, single parent, you know, or any other situation, like, you are able to do what you either dream of doing or want to do. And the only thing that's stopping you, to be honest, is you. And situations can't stop you. There's always resources and ways. And, you know, if you do have a relationship with God, then you can understand that God's in control of everything. And He's the one who is going to lead you and direct you in your way. Not only that, but if He says it's going to happen and He's put it on your heart, then that's what's going, you know, to happen. Yeah, it might take a long time. It might be rough, but He's going to lead you there. And that's, you know, that's what you love to do. That's what you want to do. That's what's on your heart. And so I just always like to encourage that, because, There could have been a million other things I could have done. And there were 3 other career paths I wanted to take, other things I wanted to do in life. And my family was like, no, I believe this is what God has called you to do. And I was like, okay, like not only because I loved it, but because they believed I had the ability to do it. Absolutely. And so I like to encourage other people as well, because why waste your life on things you don't love to do, So yeah.
Yeah, and it's true. It does take a little longer, but you'll get there if you stick to it. And I think that's the hardest part, is we're navigating so much as parents that it feels like a lot to make a decision. And sometimes it's easier to not make the decision, but it's worth making the hard choices and sticking with them. So that's so good. All right.
But also, sorry.
No, you're good.
You're doing a great job, and give yourself grace. And that's it.
Heck yeah. If you're not giving grace and like reminding yourself you're doing a good job, we're just crying all the time, and cry it out. That I feel like that's something something that just keeps coming to my head is when we're overwhelmed and feeling like we're failing. There is a counselor who told a mom just to start the wash machine over again, or the dishwasher over again, because she's like, well, I haven't even done the dishes. I haven't even done the laundry. It's like, start them again. Like, it's still sitting in there. Start it again, because what you need to show your brain is that you're doing something rather than feeling like a complete failure. And it helped this mom spiral out of her depression, because she had spiraled so far down that getting up and eating was not even what she wanted to do. And so I just remember that when I'm feeling like a failure, I'm like, well, I'm just going to go start the laundry again. Because I forgot, and it's kind of sitting there, and it's gross anyway, so why not? But just reminding ourselves that grace is so important, and community is such a big deal. So do you have anything else to say before we end?
No, I'm good now.
This was great. I really liked listening and learning. I think this is going to be really cool to have other people listen. So next week we'll have a different episode. You guys can catch it on YouTube, Facebook, or on Spotify. And if you guys have any questions, please reach out. Jordan does work with me, so if you message DK Education Consulting, you will get directed to her as well. So she's more than willing to come and speak and be present with you guys. And I think just learning from someone who's gone through it really does help us get out of the fire that we're in. So we will see you guys next week. You guys have a great day.